Back in November, I began uploading YouTube shorts where I would play through a Pokemon game and get as far as I could without seeing a certain typing. And this made me wonder, could I possibly expand on this idea? Well, here we are, 6 months later, and I'm attempting to play through the entirety of Pokemon Red and Blue and become the champion without laying my eyes upon every type of Pokemon. Now you might be wondering, why am I choosing to do this challenge in the first generation? Well, although I'm gonna try my best to skip every trainer I can, I'm just about guaranteed to see some of the more common types like Water, Normal, and Flying. However, the Ghost and Dragon types are interesting, as only 3 Kanto Pokemon occupy each of those typings, meaning if I can just avoid seeing a member of the Ghastly or Dratini line, then this challenge is doable, as it wouldn't matter if I see all the other types. But I'm sure that's a lot easier said than done. So without further ado, make sure to hit that sub button as it really helps out the channel, and let's see if I can beat Pokemon Red and Blue without coming across every type. Before we were even done talking to Professor Oak, we were shown an image of a Geodude, meaning Rock and Ground are already off the board. Off to a great start. Anyways, as you can see, this will be a randomized playthrough, because if it wasn't, then I could just look at every trainer's team and easily avoid who I needed to. Therefore, I selected Shellder as my starter, since I didn't want to risk looking at the rest of the options. I guess it didn't matter too much though, as our rival took Pidgey, so we're now 5 typings down and we haven't even made it out of the lab. Well hey, maybe I'll get lucky and not run into any Dragonair? Already? Really? What makes this even worse is that I lost to this thing, and on the same tile of grass on Route 1, I ran into a Hitmonlee. Yeah, so this challenge may be more difficult than I initially thought. Fortunately, I managed to get through the rest of the route and deliver Oak's parcel successfully before finding one of those speedrun guides for Viridian Forest in order to make sure I didn't run into a wild Mon. However, the very last trainer in here had a Mr. Mime, so that didn't help. As for Brock, he did have a Nidoking, so you can go ahead and cross off Poison, but at least his ace was an Eevee, so we're still hanging on. But Route 3 features a lot of mandatory trainers, so I was bound to run into more types, like this Bulbasaur, Articuno, Rapidash, and Zapdos that I saw within the first 5 battles. Yeah, I might as well start preparing for run number 2. On the bright side, I did catch a Kangaskhan in Mount Moon, just because I needed a stronger team member, before running into a Scyther on the bottom floor. Well, I sure hope I don't see a Ghastly, Haunter, or Gengar from here on out. The rival battle by Cerulean was a piece of cake, but as I was trekking through Route 25, there it was. Okay, I'm not sure if I just got unlucky on this first attempt, but I feel like I can make it way further than this. I think the goal is to get a strong starter at the beginning, and then hope I make it to the point where the game really starts to open up and I can skip a bunch of trainers. My second attempt got off to a similar start as we were greeted with a Dugtrio before receiving a water-type starter in Seal. The rival then sent out a Kakuna, meaning we're already 4 types down, but I miraculously went back and forth through Route 1 without running into a single wild Pokemon. This meant that it wasn't until the last bug catcher in the Viridian Forest when I ran into a Clefairy. The Brock battle didn't help at all though, thanks to him owning an Articuno and Magneton, resulting in Ice, Flying, and Electric being taken off the board. The Route 3 gauntlet wasn't in our favor again, as I encountered an Alakazam, Weepinbell, Mankey, and Ghastly, leaving us with only Dragon, Rock, and Fighting remaining. And of course, the Super Nerd in Mount Moon had a Dragonite. I did manage to defeat Misty this time around though, but the first trainer on the Nugget Bridge used an Amistar, and the same exact trainer that ended the first run had a Growlithe, ultimately ending attempt number 2 as well. You couldn't even script this if you wanted to. Alright, I'm gonna hope that third time's the charm, but if it isn't, then I might adjust the rules slightly. We started off by seeing a Mewtwo of all Pokemon, before I selected a Zapdos off of Oak's desk. Finally, I've got the strong starter that I need, but we were still 4 types down upon leaving the lab after seeing our rival's Porygon. Tangela was the only thing I saw on Route 1, while the bug catcher in the forest owned a Caterpie, which he might normally have, so that's kinda funny. Brock started out with a Vulpix, removing Fire off the list, and yet again Route 3 messed us up. Right away, we ran into a Golem and Nidorina, meaning only Water, Ice, Fighting, Ghost, and Dragon were left. However, Water didn't last long thanks to this wild Amistar in Mount Moon, and of course the mandatory gym trainer in Cerulean City had a Gengar. Am I really about to lose on Route 25 again? It sure looks like it, as the rival owned a Dratini. Things looked bleak, but I guess I was the Ice and Fighting repellent, as we did make it to Bill's house and even to the rival battle on the SS Anne. He didn't have anything noteworthy, and neither did Lieutenant Surge, minus his Mewtwo, which I guess is kind of noteworthy. Thanks to Repels, Rock Tunnel was a breeze, and Erica had some very weak mons on her squad, including a Mankey. Thanks, Erica. Now that Ice was the only typing left, it was only a matter of time before I came across something, and yep, the rival in the Pokemon Tower sent out an Articuno straight away. So clearly this challenge is just about impossible without some insane luck. But what if I just didn't count wild Pokemon, since Repels nullify them for most of the game anyways, and I only looked at each Pokemon's primary typing? I'm gonna give it at least one more shot with these adjusted rules and see how it goes. Despite that, we were still forced to look at an Ekans before choosing, ironically enough, Bulbasaur as our starter, who will only count for grass. Our rival made the bad decision of selecting Magikarp, so after obliterating him, we came across a Rattata on Route 1 and a Charmeleon at the end of Viridian Forest. Brock didn't help our situation at all, as he whipped out a Dragonair and Electabuzz, and the first trainer on Route 3 used a Gengar and Butterfree. Man, I did not think it would be this easy to see a member of the Ghastly or Dratini line. Further down the path, we met a Cubone, while Mount Moon hosted a Geodude and Articuno. Then Misty's mandatory gym trainer just had to have a Drowsy, so we're literally in the same situation as the last run. Nonetheless, I did board the SS Anne and defeat Lieutenant Surge, but the first trainer in the Rock Tunnel, who isn't avoidable, sent out a Hitmonlee. This meant that the only typing left was Flying. But then it dawned on me. No Pokemon possessed the primary flying type until Generation 5. So, with this set of rules, I can technically run through the rest of the game without seeing a primary flying type. However, if I were to stick with the original rules, then this run is as good as gone. Well, I truly believe that this challenge is nearly impossible. Sure, I could sit here for another week and try over and over again, but it would just take an absurd amount of luck to succeed. I think I overlooked how many mandatory trainer battles there are throughout the Kanto region, as well as how often I would see a member of the Ghastly and Dratini lines. And I could be mistaken here, but I doubt that this task would be any easier in the other main series games. Nonetheless, I had a lot of fun trying to play through this classic Pokemon game in a different and unique way. For now though, I hope you guys enjoyed, have a great rest of your day, and until next time, deuces!